A cornerstone of the knowledge age company is intellectual capital, knowledge itself. According to a 2005 Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia report, investments in intangible and tangible assets as a percentage of the GDP will be equal in the next few years. Jeff Botvinnik is a managing director in UHY Advisors Forensic and Litigation Valuation Services Group, where he helps clients independently establish market value for tangible and intangible assets.
If you look at the valuation world 10 years ago, valuations were primarily done for compliance purposes. There was a regulatory or a tax reason or a legal reason to come up with a valuation. Today, it's being used much more strategically. The knowledge that comes from valuation and what drives value is used much more strategically. Businesses want to understand what assets have value. They want to understand how to manage those assets. They want to understand how to monetize those assets, how to take what they have something that could be valuable and make it much more valuable, or to take something that they have in-house that might have value to someone else and really turn it into currency, turn it into value, turn it into profits to them. I think companies probably always realized that there was some value in those intangible assets, but it's never really been accepted. When you look at how the world has changed over the last several years, the accounting community, for instance, there are accounting standards that upon the close of a transaction ask the company to specifically value their intangible assets. That really didn't happen in the past. Look at the capital markets. The capital markets now accept intangible assets as a potentially collateralizable asset, where they're willing to lend against the value of the intangible asset. And that really just started, or I would say came into fashion probably about 10 years ago, when you saw David Bowie's song catalog actually get monetized and bonds were sold off the royalties in the stock market or in the capital markets.
In general, it's very difficult to value a company like ours. And one way that's done is the amount of financing that has come into the company to date. And then a venture capital company syndicate will always look for a multiple on that. So, but it is difficult to value.
The license that Chlorogen's using is really a cost to do business, and it's my understanding that those patents have been around for quite some time and really have been untouched until now, until Chlorogen they were able to develop unique proprietary processes and products from them. So it's really the value in their products and processes, or it's their products and processes where the value is really going to be derived.
In the knowledge age, intangible assets are the new fuel for companies of every size and every market segment.
Once you know what you have and it's viewed as secure, figure out what you're going to do with it. Manufacturing companies are really focused on producing the widget, as opposed to, wow, we have value in these 4 or 5 different types of assets. What are we going to do with them? Maybe some of them aren't core to the future of the company, in which case you can sell them. And there's a variety of things you can do, almost from a portfolio management perspective, once you understand what you have. We're dealing with an old line manufacturing company. They make 3 or 4 different types of chemicals that have been around for 100 years. And they were looking for ways to improve their liquidity and to improve their capital structure. They talked to a few lending institutions, and a forward-thinking financial institution, a forward-thinking bank, floated the idea of lending against their licenses. Well, it turns out that these licenses allow them, and really allow them and just a handful of others in the United States, to produce this product, and they're the only ones that can produce this product. It turned out, as we were looking at the value of just those licenses, that those licenses alone had close to 50% of the value of the entire company. People are used to hearing the word patent or trademark or trade name. But knowledge, know-how, proprietary processes, even items as simple as a workforce in place, an assembled workforce, or a particular permit or a license can have value. And people are really just now understanding, and really the valuation world has evolved to the point where you can actually put value on those types of assets, that it's become more commonplace and more acceptable and easily understood, more easily digested by company management.
According to UHY advisors Jeff Botvinnik, there are several steps any company should take to capitalize on its unlocked value.
For an old line company, first and foremost, understand what you have. So that way you can better manage the business in the future. Once you understand what you have, protect it. You use legal protections and what the law will avail to you, and look at your internal processes and procedures, and make sure that you are protecting and that you have the protections in place to keep those assets and the value of those assets secure. And then finally, align what you have. Once you understand what you have, align that with your strategy. Don't just look at your company as a manufacturer of widgets or producing a basic professional service. There's intangible value there, there's intangible assets there that really have value and could really drive the future value of the company. And you really need to understand what you have and understand what the value of what you have as well. I would think management would want to care from a strategic planning perspective. Part of management's goal is to increase shareholder value, and that means you need to understand what assets you have, how value is derived from those assets. If you don't manage those assets appropriately and don't even want to understand how those assets derive value, you are going to be selling yourself short, literally.
So, on today's program, we've not only learned about the radical idea of creating a cancer treatment from tobacco leaves, but how capital strategies are directly linked to your market position. We've also seen how Dave Duncan, the Chlorogen CEO, has taken the long view of their capital needs. And we've heard valuable insights from former St. Louis Federal Reserve CEO Tom Meltzer about preparing a company for a capital raise, whether it's for expansion of an existing factory or the next knowledge age breakthrough. And according to UHY advisors, companies should take a proactive approach in establishing the market value of their intellectual assets, whether they're as pedestrian as customer lists or as complex as proprietary manufacturing process for the treatment of cancer. So don't forget, if you log on to www.businessintheeyeofthestorm.com, you can join in an online conversation with our experts about plotting your company's strategy, its market position, and download our strategic exercises or get a copy of UHY Advisors' Forensic and Litigation Valuation Services Guide on valuing and protecting intangible assets. It's all free at www.businessintheeyeofthestorm.com. I'm Steve Samick, and that's it for today's episode of Business in the Eye of the Storm. Oh, and be careful out there. There's a storm coming your way.